Hello, everybody. So today, it's the last week of the class, just Monday and Wednesday left. We'll just be talking about some more sneaky topics. So last time we left off talking about a little bit about the assignments and some of the states that you'll be implementing and stuff, along with how the documents are laid out and things. Since then, I have a more updated project that has everything all working in it. Level design still could use some work, but it's a better example complete with everything all working. So we got our player character, got a nice view so we can see the enemies kind of patrolling around and trying to avoid them. And when we press right arrow, we're able to select that first enemy and issue it the commands. If I press 1 from the top of the keyboard, pauses that character, press 1 again, unpauses it and lets it continue on. If we press 2, it triggers the reverse state. So it's going to reverse, start going through its patrol points backwards. If we press 3, it pulls it off of that normal patrol path, giving us a chance to totally sneak by it pretty much unhindered. We then entering our second area or room, whatever you'd prefer to call it. We can interact with these, just pressing right to move on to the next one. Oh, and that is our pursue state. So if we enter that volume around our enemies, or if we have a volume around our character, they'll start chasing us. So continuing on to our third room, let me just get away from that guy so he just goes back to normal. And we have a couple more agents doing a different kind of patrol path. This guy's just going through 3 patrol points up here. And then we have one down below, which is also going through 3 patrol points down here. And saw me and caught me and pretty much would have been an end game scenario, but as I mentioned, we're just doing a game-like feature. We're not going for that full game experience. One last thing, I have an area over here that is, I know there's supposed to be 4 areas, but kind of ran out of time just before a lecture to plop down a 4th area. And once our player hits that, there's a couple of things that happen there. One of the biggest things is it should add a print string or in-game text letting the player know you won. And as a final finishing thing, to prevent our guards from still just running around and things, I ended up telling the game to pause as soon as we hit the win condition. All right, so that was an overview of how things should function. And we'll go ahead and close out that example finished version. Or we'll save. And we'll open up the project we were working in last time where we looked at adding that player functionality and see a couple of things on how to go about adding the different areas and potentially one of the other states we'll take a look at. Okay, so first thing you should always do whenever opening a project again, go ahead and test it, make sure everything's good where you left off. I noticed my player kind of dropped down from the ceiling. Should probably move that starting point so it's a little bit better. We have our guards super slow, so we could test that if it sees us or not and stuff like that, since we did the player detection thing last time. And it goes into a stun state when it does see us. So there's a couple of things I want to change in this before I go about making my other areas and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and stop playing. I want to remind you guys that as of the nav agent manager experiment, that the actual nav points for the agent are only in the patrol state. So you will need to click on that to actually change where the nav points are going. It's no longer just on the agent itself, since the patrol is the only one that cares about those kind of patrol points or nav points. All right. So while we're here, we do notice that this nav point 2, we check that again, is nowhere to be found on the list. I do kind of want it going through just all 4 of these, and we can go ahead and just insert a nav point where we'd want to make sure it does cycle through all 4 of them in this area. Get that set up. The other thing I want to do, I want to make sure that my guard's moving a little bit faster and stuff like that. We'll take a look at some more advanced stuff in a moment, but we can change that right in that character movement. per guard if we change it here, or right on the blueprint itself for the default of the guard. And in walking, the max walk speed is how quickly it moves. I'm going to say it moves at 300. I do want my player to be a little bit faster for quick testing and can get away from it and stuff. Once we add that pursue, it could be pretty daunting if they're all going the same speed as the character. So we'll just bump that up to 300 for that guy. And let's say I wanted to kind of make this into a big room and separate out the different areas and stuff rather than just having one big play field all kind of open like this. A few things I'm going to do. I'm going to change up these path blockers. I'm going to Control W, duplicate that, move that over a bit, switch over to our rotate that around and kind of close off the area so it's not just one big old open area. Switch to scale, make this much wider. And we'll duplicate that one. Move one over on the other side. Duplicate again. One for the top area and bottom area. And let's see. Oh, I angled that poorly. Control Z. Oh, no, I didn't. Cool. So we're kind of closing off the area. We'll leave a little bit of an opening to go to the next room. So our player will have to kind of cut across this, go past that area that nav points are, and get into the next area that we'll build up here. We'll duplicate this one more time to close off this bottom portion. And it doesn't have to be perfect or anything, but I mean, you guys are designers, so I expect a little bit more of a design than I'm just showing in this quick example of how the agents are pathing and kind of the puzzle that the player would have to get through. I then also want to move my spawn point that was just set up there. So when we first started playing, we could have an overview of the level. But now that we have an actual player that we're moving around, we'll drop this back on the ground, tilt it back upright, and just have him start over in this bottom left corner. All right. Save everything, and let's play to make sure that it is still all working. We're able to go through and get into our next area. Now, problem is I can't click over here to kind of continue building right off of this. That's where that nav mesh bounds volume comes in. So rather than building everything from scratch again, let's organize our scene a little bit, because right now everything's kind of just placed in the level, and there's a little bit of organization in the order that they're placed in and stuff, but as we add more to the actual level, it's not too great. What I'm going to do is grab everything pretty much from this room one. So the agent, the bounds volume, the nav points, the path blockers for this room. And we're going to put them inside a just empty game object so we can transform this one game object and have everything else move relative to it. Should have probably put the game object here first. I don't think we can wrap this in a game object. No, that's not going to be easy to. Is there a new game object option in here? No, of course not. So we're going to need to add in an empty actor. Drag and drop into the viewport. We'll just put it at the center of the room. Then we'll grab everything for the room, attach it to this actor. We see, hey, you can't attach static actor to the nav mesh bounds volume to this dynamic actor. So our nav mesh bounds volume right now is dynamic, and our actor itself is not going to accept that. So we can't put this static object on a dynamic actor. Let's just change that real quick to movable. Why not? And then we'll try once more. Oh, meant to hold shift. So we've got everything from our level, our room 1, drop that into our actor, and it lets us do it now. All right. We then can, like when we're moving this, it's going to move the entire level area around. As we're moving it, it's obviously rebuilding our navigation. If we wanted to see that, we can once again just press P to view the navigation grid. Select our room, move it around. I'm going to give myself a little bit more space on the terrain or landscape. So we'll select our landscape, and we could change many different things about it, whether it's scale, we'll bump scale up maybe twice the size, so 20 by 20. So we have a much bigger area to work with. I'm then going to move my level area 1 around. As we can see, our nav mesh didn't build because we just rebuilt the terrain, but we want to make sure that gets updated. So move it a little bit. And why is it not building the nav mesh over there? Interesting. Well, let's see. Apparently the nav mesh bounds volume does have to be static. We'll include that outside of the actor. Just move that over into the included. So included has the nav mesh bounds volume. And let's set that back to static. And we'll just change the size of it so it encapsulates the entire area of the terrain. Bump that up to, what did I say? Yeah, let's go double its current, so about 30. 30 by 30. We'll move that around so we have a little bit more area to work with. There we go. All right, so we'll work within this area, or just be safe, make that a lot bigger, give us some extra area around. All right. So I'm gonna click the terrain and press P to turn off that nav mesh debugging, because that green can hurt your eyes for looking at it too long. Nice hush gray tones or white for us. All right, now that we have this kind of area, I shoved it all into this one actor. Let's rename this actor to area 1. Let's create some folders in here for organizing these different things that we have. So I'm going to create a folder. And that is, where is create folder? I can never remember where that is off the top of my head. Oh, duh. This button up here. Nice. So for our area 1, we'll create, we have the included folder. We'll create one more for areas. Throw this into that areas folder. And we'll create another subfolder with that selected. Didn't want to create a folder there. Control Z, always a good friend. We'll put this nav agent in its own folder. Agents. And we'll move that into the agents folder. And looks like it pulled it out of the area. Still want it attached, and that's going to be annoying. Gonna duplicate my areas first before I guess I organize those folders. That'll be easiest. Fun times organizing scenes. So we have this area 1. I'm gonna just hold Alt and drag this over. And it only duplicated the single actor. So let's cancel that. Select everything in area 1. And then duplicate. Holding Alt, drag that over. We'll even spin it around. Move it so that the opening kind of lines up. Did not make that opening very big. That is close enough. All right. One thing to keep in mind is if you're trying to line things up perfectly and stuff, or your grid is snapping weird, you can change how far it's going to snap right here and get more accurate, or even click that and turn grid snapping off. Same goes with the rotation snapping. It's going to rotate every 10 degrees, or even scaling, it's going to go a quarter every single time. All right, so we've got this second area. So we have our area 1, and it renamed this area already to just area 2. Nice. And let's change up area 2 a little bit. Let's give it an exit, maybe in the top left. So we'll scale this down just a smidge, bump it over so our player has an exit over on the left side. All right. And then we can plop another area down there, and so on and so on. I'm not going to do all of the areas just for this lecture, but I do want to talk about if we play like right now. All right, wait for him to walk past, go into our second room. This guard's just going to be doing the same kind of following that it previously was for that first room. Let's change it up and maybe add a second guard to this room and the layout of the room be a different. So layout of the room, let's make our character kind of have to zigzag through this room. So as soon as they enter, they'll have to take a right, be forced up, and we'll keep pushing them to the right a little bit. And just duplicate these wherever we see fit. Not the best idea to just constantly have them duplicated to like extend a wall, but for our purposes, it will work. We could always come back later and just make sure that it's one and scale up the one wall that we need, or if we do run into performance issues. And let's also change the nav points up. So for this nav point, I'm going to just get rid of it. And if I want to just place another one in there, I could search my content browser over here, or even search in this place actors stuff. Since this one's right next to our viewport, I'll go ahead and do that. Nav point. So we already have 3. Let's clear out the default pattern already. Oh, don't delete the terrain. That's not a good idea. Delete those. And I'm going to save everything so I don't get too far, because sometimes Control Z is not too great, and just having deleted the terrain and having to Control Z it back in, nah, it sometimes works. Just always good to save as you're working. So we're kind of getting a player path that we want them to go through this. Let's have this card kind of wander mostly around here, and then we'll have an option to try and distract it to get over here. So we'll drop a nav point. We'll say patrol's right at that entrance. We'll duplicate the nav point, here and kind of have a third one. Don't want to start it touching one of the agents, but right there will be fine. Then want to tell this agent about those nav points or which path to take. So I'm going to select him. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Go to the patrol state. We no longer need 4. Let's just go ahead and delete one of these. And we'll say it's going to start going to that one, then that one, and then that one. Using that eyedropper, we're able to assign them or selecting them from the list, but I didn't pay attention to what numbers these were. So we'll assign them this way. All right. Let's save this and just try and play and make sure that it is pathing correctly. We're able to get up here and it is just going through those nav points. All right. Next up, I mentioned I want to be able to get past this guy. So if I try and select it right now, selected the guy in the first room, selected agent 1. If I try and pause, agent 2, agent 012, we see we're getting errors, lots of red in this output log. Those errors won't stop the game from running or anything. We have to stop and then it'll bring you over to this message log. Hey, lots of issues. We're getting a lot of access none stuff. Specifically on the property of get currently selected, returning that selected agent. Well, it's telling us that's in the agent manager when we're trying to turn a highlight on and stuff. So let's hop over to our agent manager. And since we changed the number of agents in our level and stuff, we're going to need to change some stuff here. We have to tell our agents array that had 3 agents in it when we first started, that it now only has 2, as agent 2 still, and then the next one is agent 3. But as we add agents and stuff, we have to update our manager, letting it know the order of our agents. All right, let's close out of that stuff. Give this another try. If I press right arrow here, we do select that one. I'm going to run past to the second room. Oh. And give my computer a moment to refresh. There we go. And we see we're here. If I press right arrow again, we do have this one selected. We have the way of getting past it right now by pausing that guy and just kind of running past. All right. So that's just a quick example of how you can set up another agent in another room and a little bit of organization to this so we can move the entire rooms themselves by attaching it to just a parent object or empty actor. And then each room has their own areas and stuff. One thing I didn't do is all of these nav points are just off in their own area. I'd recommend once you get the layout for the guards and stuff, you go ahead and drop them into the area that they're responsible for. So it's got the agent, the nav points, and then any level geometry for it. Helps keep things organized a little bit better. Very last thing I want to show, well, not last thing. Next thing I want to show you guys is a way of getting that kind of win message and just pausing real quick for the game end. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and just create a new actor object to have a script associated with it. Those errors were when it first popped up that we're testing the manager. I'll just dismiss them for now. Blueprint class. We'll be creating a basic actor so we can place it in the scene. And we'll just call it BP win trigger. When the player reaches the end goal, should let the player know it wins. We'll open this up. Our win trigger will need some sort of overlap on it or some collision component to detect an overlap. I'm going to go ahead and add just a general box, or not box, a cube. So that's the mesh with collision and stuff on it. One thing I'm going to change about this cube is I'm going to set its rendering as hidden in game, so that we can see it in the editor and see where that is, but when we start playing, it'll be hidden. There's a few different ways to get the text to pop up. I could create a widget and add that to the screen when the player hits it, or I could go with like some in-game text right in the game world, adding a component here using render or text render, and don't want that attached to the cube, just the root. And bring this up. And right now the text just says text. Let's change it to you win exclamation point, or you escaped. Can't remember what the text says. We see it is showing up from this. It'd be kind of hard to see from a top-down view if we're looking at it like this. So we will have to rotate that around 90 degrees. Let's also make sure that it is centered in this object. Text center, and center it horizontally as well. Let's change the color. I'm quite a fan of that teal coral blue. All right, so we have you win. I want my player to be able to overlap with this, and then that text pop up and the game pause. So for the cube itself, by default, cubes or meshes come with like block all dynamic. I only want this to overlap with pawn. Overlap only pawns. So we get overlap messages. Then let's go over to the event graph and want to make sure that the object hitting it isn't just one of the nav agents. If they run into this win trigger or anything, I want to make sure it's my player itself. Well, on our top-down character, we had added a actor tag called player. That was for when we were doing our player detection. Well, we can reuse that same kind of detection here for win. If we detect an overlap, it's going to trigger only for every pawn, but our NPCs are still technically pawns. We want to make sure that the actor has that specific tag. That tag we're looking for, just player. We will branch. And if that's true, right now, we'll just print a message or print string, player win. And once we know that our logic is set up correctly and our player is triggering it, we'll then go and replace it with the in-game stuff. So our agent, back to our level view. Let's go ahead and add one of these objects, BP win trigger, kind of towards the exit of our fourth level, but we only have the two areas, so keep that in mind. And we'll scale this up a bit. And our you win text is facing a weird direction. Let's rotate around. You win. All right. So if I play this now, remember I told that box itself to hide itself while it's in game, so we don't see that. We do see the text right now, and we'll change that in a moment. I just want to make sure we are getting that message, and that's the right spot that we'd want to enable that text. All right. So we saw the print string was working. That's a good spot for it. Get rid of that, and we want to tell our text to show up. We wouldn't want that text showing at the beginning of game. So simple fix for that. Text render. Let's set your visibility to false right on begin play. And when we wanted that, after we hit the player, we'll go ahead and set the visibility of it to true, specifically on that text render component. And just to finalize this, our guards, like if we had pursue all functioning and stuff in this, I don't want them still chasing me to the end after the game's over. We'll go ahead and say set pause. There's an option built into the gameplay framework to pause the game. We just change this bool, tell it it's true. All right. So playing now, run past that guy. Hop over here, we get the you win text or you escape text. Fantastic. So are there any questions so far? I know I'm going a little bit fast. I had a bit of coffee this morning.
I don't have any questions right now.
Alrighty, then let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break, and then when we get back, I'll go ahead and show kind of adding another state to almost distract. I won't show you exactly how to toggle that off key press. We'll be doing something a little bit more game style where we'll right click a position and it'll drop a node down, and if the guards see that node, they'll be distracted by it, go over to it and clean it up. All right, let's pause here. So let's take a look at a way we could get these guards a little bit distracted, and similar to the alarm state, but instead of just placing the node in a room and assigning it similar to how we assign the nav points, let's look at how we could add a little bit more functionality on that, like a game would be, and be able to like right click an area and have it place one there. So first things I'm gonna set up is, let's get right clicking working and placing some sort of distraction on the ground. Let's create a distraction so we can then spawn one in wherever we're right clicking. So we'll just go for a blueprint class, just a basic actor for this. BP distraction. All right, and for it, I'm going to, let's see, we'll add just kind of like a simple cube or a cone. Let's do a cone. We haven't used cones too much. Let's have a cone, pull it out of the ground real quick. And we'll also add a light to this. We'll do a simple point light, have that above the cone, and let's set it to a red color. I want it to be pretty intense, so we'll bump that up, and we can change the radius of the point light here. But I want to know like if a guard's within that radius. So we'll do it that way. For our cone, we'll just leave, we'll change that so our guard can overlap it and then basically pick up the cone or turn it off essentially. overlap only with pawns. And for the point light, we have it just red right now. Let's test out what this looks like in scene. All right, so kind of a big red area. Let's change the attenuation a little bit so it's not so huge and more linear. So point lights, a lot of different options on there, stuff like that. Let's change it from indirect lighting intensity to full. See how that works in here. Nope, didn't get the goal that I was looking for. Source radius, let's say 1,000 as well, or Kyle, and not looking like it's changing that. Let's go for crazy intensity. All right, that is a big old radius around there. Let's drop our normal light so we can see it a little bit better. Part of the included. And light source, it's the directional light. I'll drop this down a little bit so our area is a bit darker and we can see better edge of where that's at. As we can see, that's huge. Let's drop the radius down. Drop our source radius right to that edge as well. And let's go for a 3-meter radius. Pretty tiny radius. File that. And source length, let's bump that up to 300 as well. So we now have just a very nice defined kind of area for it. All right. So next up, I already changed the collision to overlap with pawns. So our agents, when they hit it, can respond. Let's get this spawning in when we right click. So for that, the way our character is moving around, that's the top-down controller. When we actually left click, it moves this character to its position. Let's go to our top-down controller. We see this move to hit location is how we're telling our agent to move. The event graph here, you have input action when we left click. That's when it does the move to hit location. Let's set up another input action for when we right click to set one of these points down. So input actions, we'll add one, we'll say set destruction. Mouse, and we'll go right mouse button. All right. Then in our controller, let's handle that action. Right click. We'll look for that input action for setting a distraction. When we pressed it, we want to figure out where we clicked. So there is the get hit result under cursor by the visibility channel. That's how it's determining where to move when we click. We'll use that same kind of functionality here. Oh my God, I forgot the name already. Get hit result under cursor by channel. Ugh. Get hit result under cursor by channel. All right, that gives us this hit result. Let's break that apart. And we'll be using the location of this hit to place our object. In order to spawn an object, let's look for spawn and spawn actor from class, something the game can instantiate actors. So when we press that set distraction button, we'll spawn an actor. What actor type? Our BP distraction. Where do we want it? Well, this needs an entire transform. I'm going to split this. So we have the individual location, rotation, and scale. And we'll say our location is where we hit it. Rotation just zeroed out, however it should normally spawn, and scale just all one. So we'll set that distraction up. Let's test that to make sure it is working in game. If we play, we have the one that we already placed. If I right click, we're able to place more. One thing I'm gonna set up on this distraction, as we can see, we're placing a whole bunch, and that would be just overly cheap if our player could lay that many distractions and things like that. Let's make it so our player can only place one at a time. So in the controller, before we just go straight to spawn actor, I'm going to keep track of the one that we spawn. So from this return value, this is the actual actor that it created. I'm going to promote that to a variable. And we'll just call this spawned distraction. So we now have a reference to that one that gets created. So before we go and just try and create one, I'm going to get our spawn distraction, check if it's valid. So if we already have one of these spawned, let's go ahead and tell it to destroy it. Destroy that one, and then continue on and spawn another where we're clicking. If it's not valid, we'll just immediately spawn that first one, and we're all good there. Play this now. We have the one still placed in level. Let's clean that up now that we're spawning them in game. Play again. All right, and we right click, spawn there, right click again, cleans up the one we had previously and just places that distraction in a new point. The other thing we need is our guards responding to that. And I placed that like directly on a nav point. Nice. We want our guards, if they enter this like kind of red area, to kind of respond to it and actually get pulled off their normal patrol path. They'll have to go over to it and maybe wait a second, then destroy it. So our agents will need a new state. Let's go ahead and add a new state, starting from our base state. Create a child class. What we'll call this AC underscore state, following that same naming convention as we were for the others. Distracted. Not going to do all of the code in here at first. First thing I'm going to test is making sure that we can switch to this state, and then I'll handle what I want the guard to do while it's in this state later. But quick test, whenever we enter this state, we'll override that from the parent. We can do the override here by doing the drop down and put it in its own function graph. But if we want the advantages of like delays and stuff in the event graph, rather than overriding it there, just right clicking in the event graph, we're able to add it as an event as well. So that was the enter state. So rather than being a function, we'll just add it to the event graph so we can do things like delay and stuff like that. first thing we'll do, tell our owner to change color. Owner, shoot it the message for color, set body color. And while it's distracted, let's go for maybe a yellow. All right. And now that we have this state, we'll be able to see it enter this state through either the print messages as well as it should turn yellow. Let's set up it changing to this state based on whether it can see that or not. So we have our nav agents detecting things using that perception system. That was over here. So our perception system for our nav agent right now, just checking if the actor has a tag. Specifically, tag a player. Well, let's go ahead and add a tag to our distraction as well as say it is a stimulus source. Stimulus source. And say auto register for the site. And we'll add a specific actor tag to this on the self since it is an actor. Down towards the bottom for actor, expand that option, add an actor tag to it. Distract. All right. Then our agent, when it's percepting, we already have this stuff set up for seeing the player or not seeing the player to return back to patrol. Let's go ahead and do the same thing here. Just we'll branch. So if it sees that, it'll go through there. Otherwise, let's move this over a bit more. And we'll just add our stuff before that. Shoot, no, I didn't want to do that. I already have this one set up. From our false is if it saw something, but it wasn't a player, we'll go ahead and check if actor has tag. And of course, I have to drag off an actor for that, specifically the one that we're seeing. Actor has tag. Tag we're looking for is distract. And we'll be doing something similar. We just want this to run only if it successfully sees or loses a distract actor. So we'll branch from here. As far as this goes, this will be our check for distract, check for player. We'll be reusing the same kind of inputs and stuff that we had up here. So if it did successfully sense, we'll also make sure to branch on that. That's whether it first saw it or is no longer seeing it. So when it first when it does detect, we're talking about distract. We first saw it or we didn't, we lost sight of it. When we first see it, let's tell our agent to change to that distract state. Changing state on our self to distract it. If we lose sight of it, then we'll change state just back to the normal patrol. We already have that right here. Copy, paste that. Cool. File save. And we're good to go. Next up, I need to make sure my agent has this state added. Just like we did with the stun state, we have to make sure it does have the distracted state. Otherwise, it's going to complain because we told it to change to distracted, but it doesn't have one. So we'll add that distracted state. And that's good. File save. Back to our level. If we play and we right click, it does not seem to be responding. Or it might be, just hard to tell because the color change. And the light might be interfering with us. But let's see, did it ever actually checking out the output log? It was actually going to the distracted state, but just kept going because we were only changing the color. And with the light that was overpowering, couldn't tell the color. Darn it. Well, either way, it is getting into our distracted state, then going back to patrol. Let's get it actually moving towards what it actually saw. So not only would our agent, when it does see the object and tell it to go to the distracted state, I'd need the ability to tell it a reference or give it a reference to that distraction object. So our distracted state would need to know about what it's distracted by at that time. So we'll add a variable here for distraction object. I want to change it from a bool. That wouldn't be very good to get info about an object. I'll just call it actor. Get the reference to it. All right. So distraction object, want to be able to set this for each one of the guards when they see it. So we'll say it is instance editable, or just clicking the eye over here to open that up. And in the agent, when we do see one, we'll tell it to change to the state, but also make sure that distracted state will set the distraction. Set that distraction object. All right. Well, that object that we're going to be setting it to is the one that it's talking about right here. That's the one with that distract tag. Pull that all the way over here. That's our distraction object. We've now passed that info over to the distracted state. Our distracted state not only should just change the body color, but it should also tell our owner to move towards that object. Let's go ahead and get the AI controller and tell it to move towards that object. Simple, let's move to the actor. Goal will be our distraction object. File save. Test this out. If I place one, oh, right, perception's all in front. Wait till it's come back this way. Place one there. No. Oh, almost moved towards it and then kind of stopped there. So having a bit of an issue where it kind of walks towards it and then just kind of ignores it and goes on. So I have a feeling it's because the object is so low that as it gets closer, the vision cone is kind of cutting itself out. Let's make our spike a lot taller. Let's just scale up the Y, the Z in Unreal for the cone. And see if that plays a different tune. Is seeing it and then immediately swaps back. And our light's not showing because our light's now inside of or too high for lighting the ground. A couple of things will change on this. The sight here. I think we'll probably want to change. Cone is so narrow. It's probably losing that sight. Let's actually pull up. Better idea. Use the AI debugging tools. So first thing, I'm going to slow this guy down again so we can test easier. Let's go 10, super slow. 10's real slow. Maybe 20. Playing game. Place our distraction down, pull up our AI debugging. Press 4 to see that perception system. We right click. You see it's kind of just basically ignoring. It is saying it does detect it. Site 1. I think it has to do with getting too close and then no longer sees it, so the age is going up. All right. Let's check out our nav agent or distracted. I think it's trying to get inside there or it's hitting true and considering it good. Let's see if it does overlap with that distraction. Each one of the states has their own begin and end overlap. When it begins overlapping, if that other thing actor has tag of distract, branch off that. If that's true, that means we've just actually hit it. One thing we'll do is actually, if we do hit it, we'll destroy that distraction. Compile save. Test this now. It's distracted, going towards it at a snail's pace, and then just kind of broke off it. Okay. So I think our move to actor itself is not working correctly. Let's do the move to a location. We'll use the simple move to location. And our goal will be our object's position or location. Get the actor location of it. See if that actually tries to get it to enter that cone. And I think it's just too close, so our perception's saying ignoring it. Interesting. And begin overlap because it's only running when the state's active. Let's figure this out. Let's add a couple of things where we have the change state back to the patrol. Successfully sensed, should be good there. I think I did change it for our player. The time. So like our time for the stimulus source, AI site. And no, that is the only thing I changed. But our dang guy is being ignored through the perception stuff. Let's add a print string to see if this is actually happening. And our perception is, for whatever, losing sight of it. Suppose half angle. Oh, it would shoot out at an angle in front of our character. Let's bump our angle up a bit. Say 70 degrees. All right. Play. Distracted. Better, and it hit it and destroyed it. And if we stop playing now, we don't have any errors or anything. But once it actually hit it, it was destroying it. Now that I can actually see down a bit, it was shooting out at like a 45-degree angle. And as soon as it got within that range, lost sight of that little position for the stimulus source. Okay. So we've got perceiving correctly. Next up, let's get it do a little bit more rather than just destroying the actor. Let's tell it to kind of pause for a moment or stop movement from our owner. Stop. Oh, and I could never remember what it's called. We did this in pause and the stun state. Look up that reference real quick. For stunned. Stop movement from the AI controller. Duh. So when it's distracted, get the AI controller from the owner. Then call stop movement. And then we'll wait about a second. So it'll pause at each one of these, wait a second like it's cleaning up the mess or distraction. Delay for a second. And then clean up that distraction. And we'll say 1 second, maybe 2. 2 will be a little bit more noticeable. All right. And now that we had the perception working, so it was going straight to the point, we can speed our character back up a little bit. Maybe 200. Play, drop a distraction, distracted, waited a second, cleaned it up, but is still in the distract state. Let's change that up. After it destroys that distraction object, let's shoot our owner a message. Hit owner. And tell it to change state, just going back to the normal patrol. All right. Play, distract, have it clean up, and then it just continues on. So we now have a way to distract the guards. Let's test that theory out. Let's say I'm going to distract you over here. Whoa. This guard just immediately destroyed those. Oh, and it got stunned by my player's aura. Distract you. Distract. But anyways, that's just an idea of how you could get that data, get it going to a specific position, and oh, Attempted to operate or to view that property, but it was pending kill. Let's go to that state distracted and make sure that we don't try and tell it to destroy it. Looking back at the message, distraction object happened when it did overlap with it. We'll make sure the distraction object is valid before we try and access it. Because I think I clicked after it had been destroyed or something, and then it tried to distract it again. So we'll add some error protection. Only do the destroy if it is valid. And we'd still want to change back to patrol even if, hey, whatever, it was already cleaned up. Same goes for our simple move to location. In fact, I'd probably want to have this agent, while it is being distracted, if our player clicks again, I wouldn't want it to worry about the distraction object whatsoever and just immediately switch back to patrol. So we'll do every frame or execute. And, or what did I call it? State tick or tick state. Tick state. Override that event. While this is running, check that distraction object is valid. If it's no longer valid and like the player clicked and already deleted it and changed to a new location, we'll tell it to change back to patrol. Move that over here. If it is valid, we'll just continue on and keep running this state. We no longer need to change it back here since our tick would change it back once it's destroyed. We still want to tell it to destroy if it has touched that object, the distraction point. Still stop for a minute, try and delay for 2 seconds. It's still valid after the delay, then destroy it. And let's test this out again. Distract that guy, wait for it to distract again, sneak past. Oop, and distract. Oh, and of course behind won't distract. Let's keep it going, come on. Keep trying to distract it. Distract it down the path. I want to just get him back here. Hard to do when the angle's only 70 degrees. And I keep pushing my character over there. No, don't left click, right click, right click. Distracted, no. Stay distracted. Distract you. Oh, can't enter the same state because it's already in distracted, tries to enter again. That explains it. Let's prevent that from happening. I do want to enter the distract state even if it was already distracted. Let's change that out. For the distracted, or for the state machine, let's modify that real quick. Let it continuously enter. State machine, the change state. I want to say was preventing that from happening. Just try changing state to none. Cannot enter the same state. I want to be able to enter the same state multiple times. No longer print that string, just continue on, change to that next state. There we go. Distract. Much better. Getting a print string of hello. I don't remember where I added. Oh, I do remember where I added that. That was when our nav agent loses the sight of that patrol point. Now that I have them going faster, they're probably going just a little bit past, since our perception was so narrow before. So on the nav agent, tweak it. Let's give it even wider perception. Let's go full 90, anything in front of it. All right. So that guy that's moving slow works good. Let's see if this one will still kind of like run past him. Nope, hits him now and is good and distracted for a moment. All right. Cool. So that's an idea of how you can get it to move to a different point other than just the nav points and stuff like that. Each individual state can control exactly how the agent is going to react, when it'll switch back to a specific state, even has their own overlaps and stuff. Any questions about anything we went over today?
I don't have any questions.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for joining. And I guess I'll go over the turn-in instructions for the assignment. Let's go ahead and close out of all this. Always good to have everything saved. Save all. All right. So let's say your project's in a good spot. You have all the things completed. Let's move over here just so we have the base area view. Save that. Let's say you're ready for turn-in. For turn-in of this assignment, you will be submitting the entire project itself. For that, we're going to open an Explorer window to where this project is. Once we have this window open, I'm going to make sure Unreal is closed. Very important, you close out of Unreal. I'm going to go up one folder from content to the actual project folder. This one should have the content, config, and the U project file. Before turn-in, you will also be required to fill out one of these rubric and feature sheets. I know I showed it last time, but go ahead and show that again. Once you have it open here, you're going to want to download it. Actually show where this file is, right in downloads. I'm going to just copy it to my project folder so I can fill it out here and zip this up easy. We'll fill out this feature sheet, opening it in Excel. Enable editing. There we go. And just press just fill this out with the feature complete in the X things here. Each one of these prefabs it's talking about, make sure you have a blueprint for that. The guard prefab is built into the levels, so that's all good. For each one of these, the fact that we can edit that nav point array for the guard, it's all good. We're able to do the selection highlight. We have patrol, we didn't get reverse. If there was a feature that you had partially working or you attempted and couldn't quite get, make sure you fill out a note here, not implemented, couldn't get responding immediately or something like that. if it had to go to the next nav point before it actually went reverse. Things like that could be added in here for the comment. Idle is good. Pause we had set up. Angry, we kind of did that with the distract point. You have to distract points placed with right click and perception enters the state. So that one's not off of the debug key. So at command 3 wouldn't be valid because I never did that, things like that. So once you have this all filled out, I'm not going to do it all right now because I haven't done all of the features or anything. But we'll save that. You have this all saved. The actual things you need to submit: the config folder, content folder, sneaky feature sheet, and the U project file. Right click, send to compressed zip folder. Now you're pretty much ready to turn in on FSO. I highly recommend that you don't just immediately turn this in, that you go somewhere else, such as the desktop, and test this zip out to make sure it does have everything for your project. I'll extract it here to sneaky. And there's already a bunch of folders open. Close out of that stuff. This is my project folder that we were working in. And there's my sneaky extracted. Open that up, open the project. Waiting on Unreal. All right, and it did open up everything. It did open to this level. I do want to warn you, if you were to actually just change the name of the level, let's say you wanted it to be, I think it mentions like saying last name, first name, sneaky for the scene. Or if you just in sneaky, changing that name, the next time we actually go to load this up, it'll no longer open that same level. So project setting would have to change. Just want to show that real quick. So we see it opened untitled and just a blank level for you to work in. The project settings are where it tells it what level to open, specifically maps and modes. When we start up the editor, it's actually looking for that old level that we had it named. We had it just named Agent Manager. Let's make sure to update that to sneaky so that that project setting knows about that new level name. So now when we open it back up, should open into that level that we did rename. Giving it a moment and boom. All right. So once we have that, how we need it, this zip was no good. I didn't have the level renamed. I'm going to just clean that out. I just changed that in this project. We'll make a new zip right here. And we're good to go. Drag and drop that zip file into the FSO submission page. It won't let me demo that for you. Do not forget to wait for it to upload and also click submit after it's finished uploading. I know a lot of people tend to just drop them in. It'll be uploading. Once it's finished uploading, they'll forget to hit submit. that's a really stupid way to lose points. So make sure it is fully submitted and it actually shows that it's been submitted already. All right. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you again on Wednesday if you're not in lab today. Later on, everyone.